18 months and an election later, mainstream media is now saying, yeah, looks like the laptop, it might be authentic. You've got New York Times, you've got the Washington Post, you've got ABC, NBC, all those people that before were like, no, it's Russian disinformation. No, we can't believe that. We need to vet this carefully. We need to really authenticate and take a look. But yeah, we've got these 51 old guys who are retired saying that, it sounds like Russian disinformation to me. That drove me crazy. So we've got this situation now where we're recognizing that the laptop is authentic, but we're not taking that next step, which is, hey, the information on this laptop, that might have something to do with the big guy. 10% for the big guy, if you know what I mean. It's what we're talking about today. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Sean Reynolds. I own a couple of real estate companies, and I read the news that reasonable people want to hear. You want to hear this, don't you? All right, let's get into it. And this is probably my third or my fourth podcast on the Hunter Biden laptop. And I keep covering this because I am pissed. I am pissed because a podcast that I did back October 21st of 2020, right before the election, it got demonetized because the powers that be told me that advertisers, they didn't want to advertise on that type of content. And yet I've talked about all kinds of other crazy stuff. And they're like, yep, it's okay. Just keep going. I guarantee you this time on this podcast, which I will say far more stuff than I did back in October, I won't get demonetized. You know why? Because that's not what we're doing right now. And I'm recording this for you on April the 1st, April Fools. No, we're not doing that because we're reasonable. And April Fools jokes are typically just meant to hurt somebody's feelings, aren't they? Yeah, April Fools. And would you like to marry me? April Fools. You know how that goes. Yeah, there's always some sucker at the end of an April Fool's joke, and we're just not doing that. So the media avoided the ties between Joe Biden and Hunter Biden's laptop. That's what we're reading today. This is from Miranda Devine. She's the one with the laptop from hell. That's what Trump always called it. And yeah, I didn't get paid, and that it's not the fact that I didn't get paid for a video that I did. It's not that. It's what that represented. And I was really unsure back in October, right around election time, if I was going to even record that podcast, because I was looking around and guys were getting their channel taken down left and right. It was during that time of extreme censorship. And I have a small channel relatively. Any channel is small, in the context of big social media can just take you down with one fell, boop, you're disappeared, you're gone. I was ramping up with Rumble, and actually we've got a decent little presence on Rumble now. My social media guys are handling all that, and we're going down that road because you just never know. But I didn't know if I was going to podcast on this topic, and I'm really glad that I did. And I was super careful in what I said, not really knowing how this game is played because I'm a real estate guy, managing broker and owner of a company that sells real estate. And my real background is appraising real estate. I'm that guy who shows up on your porch, need to do the inspection for the bank so I can tell the bank how much your house is worth so you can get a loan. Can we do that today? That's my background, 30 something years of that. And so not really knowing what's allowed and what's not allowed during a time of censorship on social media, I was really careful. And the fact that my video didn't get taken down and it wasn't, my channel wasn't taken down was kind of a big victory. But what that showed me was this is how things are going as far as the censorship that is taking place. In a situation like mine, it wasn't like on Twitter. It wasn't like on Facebook, where they literally wouldn't allow you to send out the links on the Washington, was it Washington? Who was it? It was a New York Post story that broke on the laptop. You couldn't even send out the link on it. So that to me was kind of one of my first real times of, oh, okay, I am just reading a news story that's out there that anybody else can grab as well. I don't have anything news breaking here. And yet I wasn't paid for my content because somebody determined, I don't think the advertisers want to see your story. They're not going to want to advertise on this type of content. And I was like, okay, yeah, clearly there's something going on here. And it was suppression of that storyline. So I've got kind of a tiny, tiny little glimpse into what's going on from a personal standpoint. You got to get paid, right? And in this case, didn't get paid. And it's more than not getting paid. Get paid by Google AdSense, by the way. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Google. Ugh. But what do, right? Biggest platform out there. It's not that you don't get paid, but when your video isn't monetized and you're a monetized channel, do you think they're going to push out that content? Hey, look, everybody, let's watch this video that we're not running any ads on for the content creator. Let's watch this one. Nah, they push out content that gets lots of views on it, that they can run lots of ads on. That's how this works. So the more ads you have on a video that's doing well, watch that baby take off. That does happen sometimes. But there's a lot to it, right? Everybody's got to pay their bills. So the media avoided the laptop, the ties between the laptop. Wonders never cease. First, the New York Times, then CNN, and now the Washington Post has caught up with the Hunter Biden laptop story. Only 18 months after the New York Post broke the scandal and too late for the 2020 election. When I first saw this story come out, I thought, well, there you go. There's the election. This is going to do it. This is going to be that tipping point. Trump's going to win. And then we just bulldozed right over the top of the story. The story was never even a story. It was basically just shellacked on mainstream media. It just didn't push it out. It's Russian disinformation. Those Ruskies, they're always mucking stuff up. This sounds a lot like the Russians. We just blame the Russians for everything, don't we? But now, after our story was censored by big tech and dismissed as Russian disinformation by Democratic provocateur Adam Schiff and 51 former spooks, I love that word, spooks, led by former CIA Director John Brennan, apparently it's safe to admit the laptop is real and the emails we published can be easily authenticated. All right, so we've got that. So keep that in mind. Okay, we can do that. Of course, they all avoid the inevitable conclusion to be drawn from evidence contained on the laptop that the president's drug-addled son, Hunter, abandoned at a Mac repair shop in Delaware, April 2019. This is the correlation that we're avoiding. That Joe Biden, when he was vice president, was aware of and intimately involved in a corrupt multi-million-dollar international influence peddling scheme run by Hunter and Joe's brother Jim Biden in the countries for which Joe was point man in the Obama administration, such as Russia, Ukraine, and China. Huh. Interesting. Russian disinformation, but Biden's doing the Russian thing, and Ukraine. I mean, there's a little bit of a international incident thing going on there right now, right? Involving the Russians and involving the Chinese. Interesting. Is this just a bad time for all this to be coming up? Not really sure. Going to have to see how this one goes. The laptop has legs, for sure, but we have already proven that it can just be, it's nothing. Don't look over there. Look over here at this. This is what we really need to focus on, whatever that was at the time. But it seems like there's a few things going on and there's an investigation going on, and it's probably a bunch of stuff that Hunter did that is real. He just tripped himself up. And as far as I can tell, Hunter Biden hasn't really ever had a real job. He just runs around peddling influence. That's all he does, literally. People want to compare him to the Trump children. They at least have on paper real jobs and do real stuff. Hunter Biden, I don't know that he's done anything but put together these crazy deals that he gets paid sometimes millions of dollars for. And it doesn't involve him really doing a job. He's got a title and he gets, you get paid big dollars for putting these things together, but he's not doing any work. So what are we doing there? That's the big question, right? Hunter's laptop is a large piece of the jigsaw puzzle that leads to a shocking conclusion. Now, keep in mind, this is the author of The Laptop from Hell, all right? And I have read it, and it is wild. But I also own, just to be reasonable, I do own the Hunter Biden memoir book. Haven't read it, but I own it. That's one step away from reading it, right? So when people ask me, well, have you read Hunter's book? No, but I do own it. I think I will skim through it because I need to know what's in there. I need to know what the ridiculous is in there, because if it's anywhere close to the ridiculousness of what is reported in the Laptop from Hell is entertaining. If nothing else, granted, we know it's authentic, but the stuff that's on that laptop is just, he's taken pictures of his you-know-what when it is not in a flaccid state with M&Ms on it. M&Ms on it. Now, if you really want to impress me, do it with a full-size Snicker bar, king-sized. See if you can make that work. But no, just crazy stuff like that. It's like, really? Okay. And then you left that on your laptop. Oh, why wouldn't you? There's all kinds of stuff on there like that. And it almost makes it seem like there's no way this could be true. But then the information on it, 10% for the big guy. You throw a little bit of that in there. And you're like, oh, yeah, this isn't good. But despite acknowledging that the material on the laptop showed that Hunter was trading on his father's name to make a lot of money, as CNN White House correspondent John Harward put it, both the Washington Post and CNN were at pains to absolve Joe Biden of any involvement in the scheme. That is what you keep hearing. That's what you're going to keep hearing until you don't. Right? I think that's the direction we're headed. Yeah, but Joe wasn't involved. He told us on national television that he doesn't know anything about his son's business dealings. His son is the smartest man in the world, on the planet, in the universe, everywhere. He's the smartest man. But he puts M&Ms on his wiener and takes pictures of it and leaves it on a hard drive in a computer at a repair shop, along with all kinds of documents linking himself, his dad, other family members, attorneys, to all kinds of crazy stuff. We're not hearing about that, right? There is zero evidence that Vice President Biden or President Biden has done anything wrong in connection with what Hunter Biden has done. Okay. All right. Well, we'll just have to go with that statement from now. The Washington Post declared it did not find evidence that Joe Biden personally benefited from or knew details about the transactions. Seriously, that's what this is all about. It's not like Hunter Biden, has his own standalone company and he's out just cutting deals like so many other truly successful individuals are. He wasn't doing that. It was all about peddling his dad's name, his last name, right? And we've got the CEFC, which is the Chinese energy company, which is basically an arm of the Chinese government. It basically makes loans to companies. It's like a hard money lender to other emerging countries. Which took place after he had left the vice presidency and before he announced his intentions to run for the White House in 2020. The book is fascinating, going through how some of these deals are cut and how some of them are made. A lot of it is just, hey, can you get me a meeting with your dad? Yep, 10% for the big guy. A New York Times piece earlier this month also belatedly acknowledged about the veracity of the laptop. We talked about that. In the 24th paragraph, not 23rd, not 25th, 24th paragraph, it did not explicitly exonerate the president, but simply rehearse the legal defenses that Hunter could mount if he's indicted by the Delaware grand jury investigating him over alleged tax evasion, money laundering, and violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. Will Hunter Biden get indicted? That is a really good question. Will this get tied to dad? That is another excellent question. Those are the two lines of questioning that I think everybody is looking at going, one of those two things is probably going to happen. Does maybe dad not really have any relevance to us as a politician anymore because, just not firing on all cylinders and his ratings are terrible and he'll be really, really old to get reelected as president. Not saying that Trump won't either, but I think we're watching kind of cognitive decline unfold in front of us. Yeah. So no doubt that these August media organs that treated our story with sneering disregard for a year and a half have their reasons for jumping on board. For one thing, their original goal of removing President Donald Trump from office was achieved long ago. Yep. That to me, that was one of the big things. It's like, okay, now they can talk about it. Now they're maybe being forced into talking about it because there's an investigation going on. And there's probably some stuff that's been leaked out there and it's gotten to the top of those on the top of the food chain. And like, hey, you need to recognize that, that whole laptop thing is legit. Don't say anything about the contents of the laptop though. That's what we're talking about today. The contents. Don't say anything about that. Don't say anything about the foot jobs from the underage prostitute. What? Did we just say that? Yes, we did. It's on the laptop. It's part of the deal, right? So for another thing, they can't have their audiences blindsided when the U.S. attorney in Delaware completes his investigation of Hunter. Uh-oh. God forbid that their readers and viewers wake up to the fact that they have been misled and kept in the dark by their media outlets of choice. Well, they did report on it a year and a half after the event happened, which was the election. They reported on it. Yeah, that really didn't help much, did it? No, it was at the time, any of us that did mention something about it, and there was a lot of content creators who just had their links and stories taken down, just boom, decimated. And that's how this was handled, Twitter and Facebook being the worst of it. But instead of providing its readers with the whole truth and nothing but the truth, the Washington Post curiously left out crucial facts in two detailed stories about the laptop on Tuesday that total a hefty near 7,000 words. So we got some pictures here of Hunter Biden with his shirt off. Oh, sexy human beast. No, he was just a drug addict doing crazy stuff. And he left behind a laptop with a lot of evidence. And hey, great that he's gotten sober. But at the time, could you imagine, you're vice president of the United States of America and your solidly adult-aged son is running around just banging women left and right, doing all kinds of drugs, doing who knows what else. And then signing people up for influence to talk to you as his dad for millions of dollars. I mean, how did some of those family, meetings go? You did what? What's wrong with you? I don't even think they had those kind of conversations. It's like, did you get the money? Is the money in the account? I mean, that's kind of what we're led to believe, right? If you read in between the lines and if you read some of the stuff on the laptop, you're like, okay, everybody knew what the deal was here. The fact that we're trying to hide the fact that, President Biden knew anything about this, I think it's just simply not believable. It's not reasonable, right? The main story was titled, Inside Hunter Biden's Multi-million-dollar Deals with the Chinese Energy Company. A Washington Post review confirms key details and offers new documentation of Biden family interactions with Chinese executives. Goes into detail about Hunter Biden's business dealings with the CEFC, the Chinese-controlled company. Doesn't mention, which it doesn't mention was the capitalist arm of China's Belt and Road Initiative, an imperialist pet project. Okay, it talks about that there. Doesn't mention that at all. Those small details. Don't worry about that. Look over here. It doesn't mention the $6 million CEFC wired into the business bank account of trusted Biden family friend Rob Walker. Money was payment for work done by Hunter and his business partners, but they never really seemed to do any work. They just set stuff up, and I guess that's enough. They sit on boards of companies where they do nothing but have their name on the board of a company. Interesting. I need to sign up for those gigs, but not end up like Hunter might end up, which is indicted. Nor does the Washington Post mention the name 𝐍𝐞𝐬𝐥 Holdings, which was set up on May 15, 2017 for a joint venture between CEFC and Hunter and his business partners. This was the deal for which Joe Biden was to get a 10% cut, 10% for the big guy, right? I think that's the best part. 10% for the big guy. Who's the big guy? We don't know. Mystery, right? I mean, if you're reasonable, you're well, of course it's Biden Sr. Who else would it be? There's nobody else that it's going to be, right? Because nobody else wants to pay anybody in this scenario money for anything other than access to Biden Sr. It's pretty clear cut. Hunter's former business partner, the CEO of 𝐍𝐞𝐬𝐥, Tony Bobulinski, you probably heard of that name before, has publicly said that Joe Biden is the big guy. But the Washington Post curiously does not mention Bobulinski, even though his name is all over the emails and documents in the laptop going back to October 2020. It does not mention that Bobulinski had met Joe Biden twice in 2017 to be vetted as CEO of 𝐍𝐞𝐬𝐥. Interesting. So we've got all of this crazy, crazy stuff. It's clear that corporate media was complicit in helping get Joe Biden elected. Washington Post story should be viewed as what Nixon's advice. This is the best part of this article, as I believe. I'm going to start using this term. The Washington Post story should be viewed as what Nixon's advisors once termed as a modified limited hangout. Let me read that again. This is a modified. It's slightly changed. It's modified. It's not the full content. It's modified. It's limited only a little bit, just a little bit that's been modified. Modified, limited, hangout. You're letting it hang out. We're letting that information just hang out. Just a smidge, just a scooch, couple inches, not the full thing. 2 at most, right? Modified, limited hangout, which Nixon's advisors, he says, using a propaganda phrase that means releasing a small amount of hidden information in order to hide the more important details. That makes perfect sense to me, right? It's a modified limited hangout. Got to start using that term more. The fact that it goes back to Nixon's. I remember growing up just having all that craziness about Nixon swirling about. And of course, I'm a kid. I just don't really understand what's going on. And then I always remember, for Halloween one year, I went out with a mask with Nixon's face on it. It was funny just because, Nixon had kind of that really unusual face. And I always remember on television that one thing where Nixon, does the double peace sign. He goes, "I am not a crook," whatever it was. But I just remember him saying, "I am not a crook." And I remember thinking, well, yeah, but you just got impeached and actually you authorized the break-in on the Democratic headquarters. That kind of does make you a crook. But anywho, you hear an adult say, "I am not a crook," and you think, okay, yeah, not a crook. Oh, ooh, wait, what do we have going on there? Yeah, so it was one of those times where you're like, okay, there's so much craziness going on in an adult world. I'm just going to go play with whatever, my Evel Knievel set. I had one of those, where you cranked the crank up and then you popped a gear and Evel Knievel just took off on his little motorcycle. That was a good toy. That was a fun toy. Those were the days. Yep. Another piece of the Biden jigsaw puzzle was provided by Johnson and Grassley's inquiry that accessed confidential suspicious activity reports that banks are required to send to the Treasury Department. There's all kinds of stuff here that links certain people to certain documents, to certain laptops, to certain meetings, to certain 10% for the big guy. But for the most part, we've just been told, ignore it, Russian disinfo. But now we're going to see what the biggest cover-up has been in real time now is what I think is going to happen, because I think we're being told, and I think we are going to experience either an indictment or this is going to be used to push Biden out of the way for somebody else. Those are the only two things that I've heard as possible reasons for this happening, and that maybe there's the indictment and mainstream media can't be caught flat-foot in a week or two, whenever it is, 2 weeks from now, when the indictment comes down and the indictment basically says, hey, based on this information we've got on this laptop, and the rest of everybody who isn't reasonable goes, what laptop? That was Russian disinfo. What happened? Can't have that. Mainstream media will go, a couple weeks back, we said it was all true. And, we released these reports, and why didn't you tell us back in the day? Well, because you didn't want to know, and we didn't want to tell you. Plus, didn't really help, anybody's election that certain party cared about. So that is, I think, what is going on. And the story just keeps going. It's got legs for days. Whether or not this will result in anything that comes about as being viewed as, well, there's a fair ending to that story, I don't know. I kind of feel like we're being set up for, maybe Hunter gets a little bit of, he gets some kind of ding on his record. I don't know. He gets something, but I really don't feel like this is going to go down the full way it should. But we're just going to have to stay tuned. Don't really know, because I don't really know why we're releasing this information at this point in time, other than the fact that this little inquiry going on to Hunter could result in something even bigger coming out of it. I guess we'll find out. But sure is interesting following this storyline as it goes, right? Okay. So that's about it for me. So yeah, mainstream media, they're doing a little bit of a turnabout here on this one. And they are stating, yep, it's true, but they are not linking that information on the laptop to the storylines that we really care about, which is, hey, you weren't supposed to do that. And we caught you doing that because your son left a laptop because he was too high on drugs. We got it. We got that info. We tried to get it out there and everybody covered it up. Wild stuff, right? That's the story. All right. That's all I've got today on this one for right now, but this thing will just keep going on and on and on and on, in my opinion. So that's what we're dealing with. That's what we're dealing with. Thanks so much for being here. We'll catch up soon. We'll talk again. Bye for now.